Welcome to Module 2 of Astronomy based on Genesis 1, and it is a study of the biblical calendar and worship time. The biblical calendar must meet these rules of evidence, rules of correspondence, in order to be the true biblical calendar. So one must ask, is it biblical, astronomical, chronological, historical, and based on the spirit of prophecy guidance? Module 2, again, is based on the method of true education. In Isaiah chapter 66, verse 22 and 23, we see that on the earth made new, we will keep the Sabbath based on the biblical calendar of the new moon and as well the sun and the stars. For as the new heavens and the new earth which I will make shall remain before me, says the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, said the Lord. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 539, reminds us about the biblical feast and also the fact that it's based on agriculture. On the second day of the feast, the first fruits of the year's harvest were presented before God. Barley was the earliest grain in Palestine, and at the opening of the feast, it was beginning to ripen. A sheaf of this grain was waved by the priest before the altar of God, according to Leviticus chapter 23, verses 10 and 11. This study has been prepared for generation 144K by 144,000teachers.org. Astronomy and Genesis 1, Module 2, and the Table of Contents. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 reveals, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Astronomy, as found in Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 to 19, illustrates the fact that the Creator appointed the stars, the sun, and the moon to do the reckoning of the biblical calendar. In Module 2, we will be studying the geography of the sky and how to use a planisphere and recognize the ecliptic line, which is the path of the 12 constellations in their seasons, which is called the Mazzaroth in the Bible. Psalm 19, verses 4 to 6, and Job chapter 38, verses 5 and 32 revealed this wonderful truth. Astronomy and the biblical calendar can be found throughout the whole Bible, but more specifically in the books of Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus. Astronomy and the appointed times also demonstrate the exact time to worship the Creator. We want to also show the major difference here between astronomy and astrology. This study is a study of astronomy, not astrology. And here are the specific reasons why. Astronomy, the study of objects and phenomena originating beyond the Earth's atmosphere, is a science and is a widely studied academic discipline. Astrology, on the other hand, which uses the apparent positions of celestial objects as the basis for the prediction of future events, is a form of divination and a pseudo-science having no scientific validity. Astrologers, which practice astrology, believe that the position of the stars and planets determine an individual's personality and future. Astronomers study the actual stars and planets, but have found no evidence supporting astrological theories. Part B, Module 2, We are looking now at the geography of the sky, and we are comparing the International Astronomical Union list versus the biblical Mazzaroth list. In contemporary astronomy, 88 constellations are recognized, 12 cardinal and 76 decan. Each constellation is a region of the sky, and together they cover the entire celestial sphere with their boundaries adopted officially by the International Astronomical Union, or the IAU, in 1928 and published in 1930. You will find the link where you can look at the designated constellations with their names and meanings. However, this study is based on the biblical 48 constellations in their seasons, which is called the Mazzaroth, 12 cardinal and 36 decan. We choose not to use the extra 40 decan constellations for this study because the 48 constellation altogether of the Mazzaroth names have been given specifically by the Creator, and the plan of redemption is described in the Mazzaroth. As confirmed by Psalm chapter 147, verse 4, God telleth the number of the stars, he calleth them all by their names. We will be looking also on how to use a planisphere. In astronomy, a planisphere is a star chart analog computing instrument in the form of two adjustable disks that rotate on a common pivot. It can be adjusted to display the visible stars for any time and date. It is an instrument to assist in learning how to recognize stars and constellations. Planispheres are available for the north and south hemispheres, and you may choose to buy both of them because some of the decan constellations do not appear both in the north and south hemisphere. So you might need both planispheres in order to study completely the geography of the sky, with the 48 constellation, of course, of the Mazzaroth. The link attached here for David Chandler products is the one we recommend because it's the most simple planisphere that you can work with. Very precise, very accurate, and very, very simple to use. On the left of the slide, we have the ecliptic line, the path of the sun and planets. And these are the planets that travel with the sun every year on the ecliptic line in their order: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Part C of Module 2, we are studying again the biblical geography of the sky based on the Creator's universal laws. Psalm 19, verses 1 to 3, we read, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard." And we continue on the right side of the slide where the Psalm 19 verses 4 to 6 tells us that their line is gone out through all the earth and their words to the end of the world. In them has he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the end of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The Creator asked Job, "Who has laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest, or who has stretched the line upon it?" We know that the ecliptic line is an extrapolated line in the sky made up of the 12 cardinal and 36 decan constellations, which marks the annual path of the sun and planets. The moon travels the ecliptic line north and south in 1 month. as we want to attract your attention to the universal laws which are enunciated by the Creator Himself and illustrated by the physical laws. This is a perfect example on how to understand this wonderful principle of the Bible to acquire knowledge. As declared in Psalm 19, verses 1 to 3, the heavens indeed declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. But it also speaks to us. It also discovers knowledge that we would have never thought about looking into in the sky. And this we can see that it's speaking a message. And that's why we're insisting in using only the Mazzaroth for this study of the geography of the sky, which is purely biblical. I would like to attract your attention to verses 4 to 6 of Psalm 19 in order to understand that wonderful principle of universal laws. Their line is gone out to all the earth, and the Creator Himself has set a tabernacle for the sun, S-U-N, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. And we know that the sun going forth makes it all to the end of the heaven. And he has a circuit. The sun has a circuit that he follows carefully, which is the ecliptic line. And this is accomplished, as we saw, in 1 year. This language is very, very much the same language as the sanctuary, which we find in Daniel chapter 8, verse 14, and the 2300 days, and explained in chapter 9, verses 24 to 27. And these studies are available on numbers1317.org. And they do relate to the court, the holy place, the most holy place. And that's what the earth and the heaven is declaring at this time. It's absolutely marvelous what we see here. The tabernacle that the Lord has set, the Creator Himself has set, the sanctuary, is for the Son of Righteousness, S-O-N, which according to the prophecies mentioned in the book of Daniel, the bridegroom has entered first in 31 AD in the holy place, and in 1844 in the most holy place. These are the two chambers of the sanctuary. And soon he will finish his work in the most holy, and the time of the end will be accomplished. The time of the end of sin will be accomplished, and he can come out, and he can come and bring his people now with him to heaven, where they can dwell with him, for this is the promise he has made to them. It's a wonderful, wonderful study when you applied yourself to it. And this line that is mentioned again twice in the Psalm 19 and Job 38 is an extrapolated line in the sky, which is made up of the 12 cardinal constellation and the 36 decan constellation. And this line marks the annual path of the sun and planets, the moon traveling the ecliptic line north and south in 1 month. Very important to remember those details. Again, as we saw earlier, the Lord Himself says that He gave the names to the stars. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26 confirms. Psalm 147, verse 4, lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He called them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Surely it does confirm that God telleth the number of the stars, He calleth them all by their names. And that's why we took the time to edit the IAU list, or the International Astronomical Union list, which we saw was published in 1930, in order to illustrate the major value of the Mazzaroth. The two links here below, one of them is the original list and the other one has been edited to show precisely the Mazzaroth 48 constellations as we are studying right now. As we look at the slide on the left, again, we are giving you the ecliptic line, which is the path of the sun and the planets with the 12 cardinal constellations in their seasons, which we choose to not only use the Greek name, but also the Hebrew name, which makes a major difference between the science of astronomy and the pseudoscience of astrology. And in this study, we're trying to use more the Hebrew names in order to make that major difference. Betula, Virgo, is followed in season by Mea's name, Libra, Akrav, or Scorpio, Keshet, Sagittarius, Gedi, Capricorn, Deli, Aquarius, Dagim, Pisces, Tole, Aries, Shor, Taurus, Theomem, Gemini, Sartan, Cancer, and Ariel, Leo. For further study, you may want to refer to the link here on the Mazzaroth, which is an extended study of what we're doing here on this biblical geography of the sky. In part C of the geography of the sky, we looked at the spiritual or the universal laws enunciated and illustrated to the physical laws of nature. In part D now, we will be doing reverse. We will be looking at the physical laws of nature or the physical laws in the sky, and we will be applying or enunciating the universal laws that are being taught. Part D covers the Mazzaroth and the woman in the wilderness. Again, Psalm 19, verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of God. And verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. So these two principles of physical to spiritual, concrete to abstract, are very well expressed here. Starting with Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. There appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Here is the perfect description of the Mazzaroth in Hebrew, which is a garland of crown, and the sun, the moon, and the stars, again forming the biblical calendar, are brought back here in Revelation 12, verse 1. This woman, as we follow her pathway to the book of Revelation chapter 12, bears a child, and the remnant of her seed is found also throughout the book of Revelation chapter 12, where first she flies in the wilderness for 1260 years, and now in chapter 12, verse 14, she's given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into a place where she's nourished for a time, times and a half time from the face of the serpent. This time, times and a half times is a literal time, and this has to do with 3.5 years. And this is all declared through the Mazzaroth. And the reason now that we have passed from 1260 years to 1260 days, or time, times and a half time, or 3.5 years, is because of Revelation chapter 12, verse 17 and verse 12, where the dragon himself is wroth with the woman, went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, which are declared again in Psalm 19, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Because, according to verse 12, he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And this remnant of her seed is found in Revelation 14, verse 4. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. as we bringing these wonderful universal laws now through the physical laws of the Mazzaroth, we are discovering more and more a battle, a controversy, and it's coming to an end because the dragon, Satan, the old serpent, knows he has but a short time, so he's going to counterattack this woman even more than ever before in history, and forced her, if possible, to worship the dragon, worship the beast, that no man might buy or sell, save he that has the mark, according to Revelation 13, verse 4 and 17. And this mark, although many people have speculated what kind of a mark it will be, we know that it's a mark of worship, who we will worship. And this will involve, of course, economy, because you cannot buy or sell, but it will be, again, a physical and a spiritual battle, a concrete and an abstract battle. And again, this is very well expressed through the Mazzaroth as we look at the cardinal and the deacon constellation meaning. We discover that though it applies to the plan of redemption, to the Redeemer's work, which he has accomplished for us 2,000 years ago, now the redeemed, the woman of Revelation 12:14 is taking her place, and she will walk wheresoever the Lamb has walked, and she will be at last vindicating his wonderful character. And this is actually described very clearly in the Mazzaroth if we follow step by step the woman and the seed through Betula. Betula, Virgo, the virgin, the promised seed of the woman, Genesis 3:15 has finally come, and Coma, Centaurus and Bootes, the deacon of the constellation, the cardinal constellation of Betula, described such. Coma, the desired child of all nations. Centaurus, the despised sin offering. Bootes, the coming one. And again, the seed of the woman will go through the same steps as her Redeemer. Second, Mea's name, or Libra, the price that covers. Southern Cross is the cutting off. Victima is the lamb that was slain. Corona is the royal crown that he received over his victory. Same promise to the woman. Number 3, Akra, which is Scorpio or Akrav, the wounding, the conflict, the war. And the deacon of that cardinal constellation, Hercules, Ophiuchus, serpent, the message is the mighty one, which entered into a conflict with the serpent holder, the accursed. Kashat, number 4, Sagittarius, the gracious archer, conquering and conquer. And the very meaning of this constellation, as you can see, as a message. And that's the spiritual, that's the abstract that we need to understand. These are the universal laws that are taught to the physical laws of the Mazzaroth. Lyra or Lear is praise. Aquila, the eagle, the wounding. Ara, the end of the curse. And Draco, the dragon, the punished enemy. So here is the conqueror and the redeemed also, who are conquering through their Redeemer. Gedi, Capricorn, number 5, the goat of atonement, slain for the redeemed. Again, all of this wonderful sanctuary language is given to us, just like Psalm 19 says about what is declared in the heaven. And listen to the language. Sagitta, Delphinius, Aquila, the deacon constellation of the cardinal constellation of Gedi, arrow destroying, pouring out, and the wounded eagle. And don't forget, the women were given 2 wings of a great eagle. And if you study carefully, as mentioned in the previous slide, you can study the book of Daniel. We have given you the reference, the link, and eagle is mentioned in the Bible and in the book of Daniel, and you will find out what is the meaning of that eagle. Delhi, number 6, Aquarius, the living waters poured for the redeemed. Again, a language of the sanctuary, the laver, Christ, the living waters, Pisces, Australis, Pegasus, and Cygnus, again the deacon constellation for the cardinal constellation of Delhi, thirsty fish, the chief, horse, swan, blesser who returns. A message to the bridegroom, to his wife, from the bridegroom to his bride coming through. It's wonderful. Dagim, number 7, company of congregation redeemed, blessed. The deacon Andromeda and Cepheus, chained, humiliated woman, and the crowned king. Again, the bridegroom and his bride. Number 8, Tole, Aris, the lamb that was slain, prepared for victory. Cetus, Cassiopeia, and Perseus, the deacon constellation. Sea monster, overthrown, bound. Freed enthroned woman, preparing for her husband. Redeemer, marriage of the Lamb. This is the actual definition or explanation that the Lord himself gave to the stars when he created them at the beginning. He called them all by their names, and he also gave them an important meaning, which you will not find in the additional constellation by the IAU. Perseus is delivering is redeemed. Again, promises, beautiful promises. Shore, number 9, Taurus, preeminent chief, Messiah, coming to rule. And the deacon constellation, Auriga, Pleiades, Orion, and Eridanus, the shepherd, safety for the redeemed in the day of thy wrath. The precious jewels, the 7 stars, which are the Pleiades. Orion, the mighty prince, the glorious one, the light breaking forth in the person of the Redeemer. So we have had the water, the living water with Delhi, Aquarius, number 6, and now we have the light. Again, another sanctuary language. We go from the laver to the candlestick. Beautiful, beautiful lessons. Eridanus, the judgment, the river of fire, the wrath breaking forth for his enemies. Again, fire. We have the candlestick here, but we also have the judgment, the most holy place, the work that Christ has been in accomplishing since 1844, according to the prophecy of Daniel 8:14 and 9:24 to 27. You must study these wonderful prophecies in order to understand this wonderful message of the stars. Number 10, Theomame or Gemini, the united twine, twofold nature of the king. The deacon constellation, Lepus, mad air, offender confounded, enemy trodden underfoot. Canis minor, conqueror, victorious, exalted redeemer. Canis major, Sirius, coming prince of princes, victorious guardian. Again, wonderful, wonderful promises. Number 11, Saturn or Cancer, cattlefold, rest secured, resting place. Ursa minor and Ursa major, which are the deacon constellation of Saturn, the stronghold of the saved, little fold. Ursa major, assembled, resting place of the sheep. Argo, the ship, holy city, redeemed, safe at home. And if you notice the list of IAU, they have wanted to remove Argo, but Argo is a very, very important constellation in the cardinal constellation of Saturn, because it's the ship, the holy city, coming down at the third coming, and now Christ is making the earth new, and the redeemed are safe at home, back to an earth made new, according to Revelation 21:1. Ariel, Leo, the last constellation here, the cardinal constellation of the Mazzaroth that forms the ecliptic line, and its deacon constellation. We have the Lion of Judah, he who rends the enemy. Hydra, the abhorred old serpent, the devil destroyed. Crater, the cup of wrath poured upon the serpent. And Corvus, raven, birds of prey devouring the serpent. What a blessed hope we have. We have all the promises that we need here in order to see the end of this great controversy. The stars reveal it, the plan of salvation revealed in the sanctuary also is giving us this hope that we are the winners, we are the redeemed, the one that have been redeemed by the Redeemer who first came 2,000 years ago and is coming back very soon for his bride. And the dragon at last, the old serpent, Satan, Lucifer, and his fallen angel who have rebelled for no reason will finally be destroyed, and the Heavenly Father be vindicated at last through his people. This is the wonderful message of the Mazzaroth, and this is why we need to understand it more than ever through the 12 cardinal constellation and the 36 deacon constellation. Part E of Module 2, we are looking at the connection now between the Planisphere and the Mazzaroth, and more specifically, Betula Virgo, the woman of Revelation 12. First, we will be looking at how to use a planisphere. And in order to do so, you need to hold the planisphere in your hand and turn the wheel, as we indicate here on the left of the slide, turn the wheel of the planisphere on the left going down or right going up. The stars all rise from the east from the point of view of the Earth, so you will want to line up now the planisphere with Virgo, and since it appears always in the east first, turn the wheel either down on the left or up on the right, and adjust Virgo as it's shown on the image here with the red arrow to the east, and Virgo should appear as you look at the bottom of this planisphere in end of January, February approximately. This planisphere that is shown here at 40-50 degrees north latitude, this is a north hemisphere planisphere. You also have it adjusted here, it shows north, and that's the horizon. And in the back of your planisphere, you have the south horizon. And it's important to have a knowledge of both, because as you travel with the planisphere now, we travel with the ecliptic line. The equator line, as you see on the planisphere, is a full line, which is a reflection of the line of the Earth, an extrapolation. But the ecliptic line is a broken line, and it's indicated ecliptic. And this is the line that we call extrapolation because we can follow month by month as we turn down to the left or up to the right. You will see Virgo, and as you travel now traveling towards the west, so bring the wheel down to the left, the next constellation in their season, which is, we're looking only at cardinal constellation right now. If you look at the left side of the slide, you will see the cardinal, the decan again, and their meaning. So we want to look at Libra, or Mills name, and this would appear on the planisphere and in the sky, of course, in February, March. So if we turn again further down, we will see the next constellation, the cardinal constellation of Aquarius, which is Scorpio, in March, April. And you continue the exercise with the 12 constellation, following carefully one by one these constellations, these cardinal constellations, like Washat, which is Sagittarius. You will see in April, May, you can see, but if you cannot find it on the north horizon, you just need to turn the planisphere and look carefully, and you will find it on the south horizon. For example, Scorpius is much easier to be seen in Libra, and even Virgo on the south horizon. It's still the north hemisphere, but it's a different position that you're taking in looking at the stars. As you go to the next one with Sagittarius, Quashot, Again, you may not see it in the north horizon, so turn to the south horizon and you will see it's right there following Scorpius and Libra. And again, continue the exercise. Sagittarius quadrant would be April, May. Getty or Capricorn is May, June. And again, I turn the planisphere. You have to have a planisphere in your hand in order to really understand it. And it can be seen actually at the edge of the ecliptic line on the north horizon and very easily in the south horizon. So always follow the broken line of the ecliptic line, and you will see that they line up perfectly on that ecliptic line, or which forms the ecliptic line of those cardinal constellations. The next one would be Delhi, which is Aquarius, and it can be seen in June, July, and that can be seen easily in the north horizon. Then we go to Dagim or Pisces, the seventh cardinal constellation in its season, and you will see it around July, August. Again, it's very interesting to see them traveling and forming literally the ecliptic line, and that's what the study is all about. So you do them one by one, and you will arrive now we are at the eighth one, which is Aries, again in Tole, which is in Hebrew. And as you travel, if you cannot see it on the north, always turn on the south horizon and you will make sure to see them there. So you continue the exercise and you will arrive now at the seventh month, which is Taurus or Shore, September, October. And the next one is Theomame, Gemini. And then Sartan, Cancer, and Ariel, Leo. And now you have done the whole year in Gregorian reckoning, so which carries you, as we started with Virgo, for a specific purpose, because we're studying the woman of Revelation 12. You could start with any of them and then follow them through in the sky with your planisphere. But in this case, because we are studying the connection between the planisphere and the Mazzaroth, we are working with Virgo Betula as our first cardinal constellation. Now, as we are looking at the constellation now, the cardinal constellation in their season with the biblical calendar, I invite you to look again on the left of the slide, where we're going to look at Virgo Betula, which is again January, February Gregorian reckoning according to the planisphere, where we're back at now once we're finished with Leo. And this would correspond to the 11th month of the biblical calendar. How do we know that? Well, it's simply because every month of the biblical calendar starts with the new moon. And the new moon is not necessarily on the 1st of January or the 1st of February. So January, February would be a good balance to be said that it's the 11th month. Then male's name or Libra would be the 12th month, corresponding to February, March Gregorian reckoning. And Aquav, which is Scorpio, would be the first month. And this is for a common year. We will not touch on the embolismic year right now, which is an additional month, which the moon itself adapt every year according to the solar cycle, and will add a little bit longer over traveling so that it can adjust the whole year. So March, April, Gregorian reckoning would be the first month for the coming year. And that's why also March, being that we are taking care of the Passover in April, it cannot be the 1st of March because it would be too early for the Passover, which is always the 14th of the first month. And the earlier you can have a Passover, and we studied that in another website and another study, that the Passover cannot be in Israel any earlier than the 9th of April or the second week of April because of the barley. So this is another entire study that we invite you to check on with those links that we are giving you here. And it's very important that you look at them in order to understand the biblical calendar. this study cannot be done with the Planisphere and the Mazzaroth unless you have a good understanding of the biblical calendar. And those two video, which we give you the link here, which we have prepared specifically for the understanding of the biblical calendar, is given to you here. So you might do well. We do not know the level of understanding that you have of the biblical calendar, and even before you want to understand the Mazzaroth, that you have a thorough understanding of the biblical calendar. And this is why we're introducing it here, but this is not something that should be new to you. So therefore, when we come to Scorpio or Aquav, the first month, we have the feast of Leviticus 23 here that are shown: Passover, unleavened bread, first fruit. So these are the three feasts, the three spring feasts that we find in the first month, corresponding to Aquav or Scorpio. Then the next one, continuing again, Kashat or Sagittarius would be the second month, corresponding to April, May, Gregorian reckoning. This is how we present it always. And then we come to the third month, which is Gadi, Capricorn, corresponding to May, June, Gregorian reckoning. And the third biblical month is always the month of Pentecost. And because it corresponds to the new moon, we don't have a specific date like the 25th of December, for example, in the Gregorian reckoning for the Roman Catholic feast. But this one is basically the biblical calendar of Leviticus 23. So we follow the biblical feast. So we saw the Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruit is always on the first biblical month, and Pentecost is always on the third biblical month. And as we continue with the fourth month with Delhi, the fifth month with Dagim or Pisces, the sixth month would be Tole or Aries, and now we arrive at the seventh biblical month again, which is a very important month for the biblical feast of Leviticus 23, Shar or Taurus. And we have September, October, Gregorian reckoning, the Feast of Trumpets, which is always the first of the seventh month. Atonement is the 10th of the seventh month. And Tabernacles, the first and the last day of Tabernacle on the seventh month. You can follow those clearly with Leviticus 23. And again, make sure to listen to those videos to increase your knowledge of the biblical calendar. And then, of course, the rest of the year would be corresponding again to the Gregorian reckoning of October, November for the 8th month, November, December for the 9th month, which correspond to Sartan or Cancer. And the last month, the 10th month here shown, would be Aries or Leo for December, January. And then the cycle starts again when you go to the left side of this slide. It's very simple, and if you use the Planisphere, you will get acquainted with not only the cardinal constellation, but you will see in their season when they appear in the sky. And this Planisphere is scientific, so you can really, really rely on it, especially if you want to observe the stars in the night, the constellation in the night. These are scientific constellations. The next step that we would like you to take is looking at now the Deacon constellation, and through these now the cardinal constellation, which we have started with Virgo. That's a very beautiful experience to do, is to search for now the constellation Deacon, which are appearing each month according to their cardinal constellation. For example, we will not do them all. This is a good exercise for you to do with your Planisphere. If you look at Coma, Centaurus, and Bootes, for example, with Virgo, again, back to Virgo, January, February, Gregorian reckoning, the 11th month, you can see these constellations in their season, and it's like a pie. The Earth, basically, when you look at the 360 degrees, which is a circle, just like the Earth and the planet form a 360 degrees. So if you were to divide in half, that would be 180 degrees. But if you take 360 and you divide them in 12 pieces, exactly like you cut a pie, then you will get every one of them have a certain amount of degrees. And in them, you will find those constellations, those beacon constellation. So I encourage you to follow through with it and try to find them. They're very obvious. And if you cannot see them on the north horizon, don't forget to look on the south horizon. Sometimes it's not easy to remember at the beginning when we get to study the planisphere. But you can see that the planisphere is a tool, and it's basically, it's not even digital, it's simply manual, and it's very precise, and it's a very beautiful tool, especially if you have a red filter flashlight at night. You can actually literally see those beautiful constellation in their season. One in particular that I love is, and I can recognize it anywhere, and you can recognize it anywhere in the North Hemisphere, and if you are in the South Hemisphere, it's Orion. Orion appears in the sky in the North Hemisphere to announce the feast, the fall feast, just like Scorpio or Aquarius will announce the spring feast. So you get accustomed to this, and you will kind of start recognizing in the sky those wonderful constellations. And Orion, which is shown on the seventh month under Shore or Taurus, you will see it, and it's the hunter. And it's really, really a beautiful, beautiful constellation. It's a deacon constellation in the cardinal constellation of Shore or Taurus. So get familiar with your constellation here on the planisphere, and you can literally recognize them when you look in the sky. And the way to put it in the sky, of course, you have to put the planisphere above your head, or if you're familiar with the direction, you know where Polaris is, which is the center here of the planisphere, then you can easily recognize them, especially when you have some, like I said, with Orion, which I am familiar with. I know when Orion appears, that's the seventh month, that's the month of the fall feast. So they do connect with the cardinal constellation and the deacon constellation. They connect with the biblical months, and they do identify those beautiful months. So again, it's the sun, the moon, and the stars that makes up the beautiful biblical calendar. So now, as we have seen earlier too, there is a message of redemption in the sky. And we have seen that Betula Virgo is a very, very important cardinal constellation. And this is the one that announced the virgin with the promised seed of the woman of Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. And that's where we are able to recognize the desired child of all nations, the despised sin offering, and the coming one. And as we have looked at it from the point of view of the woman in Revelation 12, the redeemed, the 144,000, the virgin of Revelation 14, which is very well mentioned in there, that the 144,000, which are the sealed one. If you look at chapter 7 of 6 and 7 of Revelation, the sealing is taking place, and we find that woman ready, that church, that remnant church that hides in the wilderness for 1260 years and then 1260 days, because the dragon, the devil, knows he has a short time. She can be recognized throughout the whole planisphere, the whole constellations of the cardinal and the deacon as we travel through the year. And the step that we want to take now, as we have seen where Virgo appears in the sky in the east, in the north hemisphere in January, February, now we want to show you precisely, and it is possible to calculate that from the fact that Betula, Virgo, appears in January, February in the east. 9 months later, which would be the gestation of how long a child, once it's conceived, how long it takes in a normal human birth. You can see that from the 11th month, 9 months later, it can actually be demonstrated that Messiah was born in September, October at the Feast of tabernacle, and he will return through Orion at the Feast of Tabernacle. He died on the cross and he fulfilled the beautiful feast of Passover, unleavened bread at first fruit in the spring in 31 AD, according to the wonderful prophecy of Daniel 8:14 and Daniel 9:24-27, which we explain in Numbers 1317.org. That's another study. But these are beautiful information, beautiful truth that you need to know to have a full understanding of the Mazzaroth and the connection with the Planisphere. So as we go now to the next slide,